All right, I'll call the Wright County Board meeting from January 9th. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll welcome everybody this morning. Glad to see you all here. Even Bob. Minutes from the board meeting of January 2nd.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Agenda. We got something for petition.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'd like to call a ditch committee, subcommittee, not the full board, for the 24th at 8:30 in the auditor's office, auditor's conference room. This is to discuss some open ditch issues that we have that have some timing to them.
January 24th at what time?
8:30?
8:30.
So let's have that as item F.
Yeah. Commissioner Vetch, this would include you and at least one other commissioner. So, okay.
Mr. Chair, I believe that would be Commissioner Burrell, correct, as the ditch committee? It doesn't matter? Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, with that addition, I will make a motion to accept today's agenda.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Today's consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to remove for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Ms. Miller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are recognizing Bob Halverson, who has a retirement pending here in a couple of weeks, and we just wanted to recognize him and talk about him a little bit in front of him. So Bob began working.
There you go. Now it's official.
That's normally what she does, yeah.
Bob began working for Social Services as a DD case manager in November of 1988. During the time when all of Human Services could be found on the second floor of the annex. Those were the days of paper-thin exterior walls with little insulation and construction going on the second, third, and fourth floors that brought noise and frequent blackouts to the temporarily windowless office space and handwritten case notes that required duplicate entries to capture the social worker's waiver case management activity. I remember hearing about those days. I think there was also smoking in the building at that time.
Oh, yeah.
We can smoke at our desks.
Yes. Different days. Computers came to Wright County a few years later in the early 1990s. And it was around that time that I had the opportunity to work alongside Bob as the DD case manager. I was hired in '94. He was, back then, and remains one of the best coworkers to bring humor and fun into the workplace. And I just wanted to share a little piece. Actually, once we had moved to what will forever be called the old Pomida building, I would remember Bob and Ed and Keith sitting in the lunchroom, yucking it up, talking about usually politics, some crazy thing, and laughing, and the rest of us in the lunchroom laughing along with them. Bob's first supervisor was Louise Colstead, and one of the first responsibilities Louise delegated to Bob was to move 9 individuals out of the state hospital or the regional treatment centers and into the community. Bob was a pioneer of person-centered thinking and planning back when it wasn't the buzzword of social services that it is today. He took everything he knew about his clients, some who had lived their whole lives in an institution in the state hospital system, and he searched for the right home with the right provider. It took time and creative out-of-the-box thinking, but each person found a place in the community they could call home. Now, years later, Bob has assisted hundreds of individuals with finding housing, employment, home care, health care, and community involvement. In the midst of his long and illustrious career serving persons with disabilities, I had the wonderful opportunity to be the DD supervisor. And during those years, Bob was a key leader on our team to successfully initiate several new services for persons with disabilities and help me manage a multi-million-dollar waiver budget. Bob started out his career having 45 individuals on his caseload, and they were high school kids all the way up to adults. This past year, he provided case management and conducted min-choice assessments for 70 adults. So needless to say, Bob is looking forward to his retirement, and he plans to get more sleep, forego shoveling in the early morning hours, do some volunteering, do more biking, eventually get a part-time job, and generally just enjoy a little more time with his wife doing the things around the area they've always loved to do. Bob, the DD unit will miss you, our department, Health and Human Services, will miss you, and there are countless clients and providers who will miss you. But your retirement after serving Wright County for 29 years is well-deserved, and we wish you the best as you start this adventure. Congratulations. Can we get somebody to take our picture?
Now, Bob, do you want to tell us the real stories?
Well, after 29 years, you look back and think about how do you make it that long, and I guess I have to give credit to good supervisors and very good coworkers that I had the privilege of working with. And also in Wright County, we're privileged to have really good providers of services. Can't do what you do, or what in our unit what we do, without people who are willing on the front line to do the services. And we've really been fortunate in Wright County to have very good providers. So it made my job easier in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to take a picture too? Okay.
Thank you, Bob, and I'm assuming you're going to go someplace warm at all, maybe for a week or two when you retire?
No, my wife told me she has a secret trip planned for me next week after I retire. Someplace colder.
Really? Is that possible?
Alaska, here you come.
Yeah.
Warmer.
Virgil Hawkins.
Good morning, Chairman Delyden and Board of Commissioners. This morning I have 3 items for your consideration, and the first of which is to approve memo of understanding with City of Cokato, Albertville, and Waverly for storage and purchase of salt for this winter season.
These are, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, these are just regular housekeeping items. Pretty much the
Correct.
same
Yeah, we've been
for
doing
years.
this for several years now, just helping the local cities and townships out. Township of Cokato participated. They didn't this year, but they have in the past, and it just offers them a place to come and purchase salt on the contract we have, so it saves them some money.
Okay, now refresh my memory with our salt, we can order up a percentage over.
Yeah, whenever we place our order for the year, we have to purchase 90% of it, and we can purchase up to 120% of it at the same cost.
And is that the same, holds true with the cities too, if they need to be a little
We hold
more?
them to the same.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the memo of understanding with the City of Albertville, Cokato, and Waverly for the storage and purchase of salt for the 2017-2018 snow ice control season.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions? Commissioner Hewson?
No, I just was going to ask if that 10% fee, that's just our, kind of our handling fee, basically?
Correct.
Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. The next item, request to fill 2 vacant highway engineering technician positions. I'd like to modify this request, actually. I'd like to request permission to post an ad for the Tech 1 position, which is what we normally do. And then secondly, I'd like to refer to the Personnel Department for consideration to post the second one as a Highway Tech 2. We haven't done that before, but it would be posting for someone with experience and certification so they could hit the ground running, so to speak.
How long have these been vacant?
Well, the one was just recent due to a resignation, and the other one we've been working the man short for about a year and a half.
Mr. Chair, Virgil, is that a Tech 1, or they're both Tech 1s that are currently vacant and you want to send request to consider Tech 2?
That's a good question. We have 5 positions for highway technician and 3 current employees that are they're all 3 Tech 2s, and they're at the top of the range. They've been with Wright County for many years. Typically when there's an opening, the highway technician position is one job description, but there's a Tech 1, Tech 2 within it. There's an addendum once the person reaches 6 years of experience and has certifications that take years to get. Then they are eligible for promotion, but it's quite possible there's technicians in Anoka County or McLeod County that have worked 10 years and have these certifications, and if they apply, we'd like to be able to have the ability to hire them as a Tech 2 right away, commensurate with their experience and education and certifications.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the advertising for the Tech 1 position and to send the Tech 2 request to the Personnel Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any discussions? I do have one. Why are we even requesting to have the one filled when it's just an automatic when somebody resigns or retires?
That should have been a consent agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was my mistake.
All right. I was just kind of curious on if, why is it something?
Actually, both of those requests could have been consent.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
hadn't looked at it that close.
Any further discussions?
So, Mr. Chair, just a clarification, Virgil, the action you did want on that Tech 2 was to send it to Personnel Committee?
Correct.
Okay, just to
That would be the 24th?
Yes, it would.
Thank you.
Okay.
The third item.
Discussions?
Oh, sorry.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. The third item is, this is sort of a housekeeping item. Approve agency agreement with MnDOT, allowing MnDOT to act as our fiscal agent in receiving federal funds. And these agreements need approved periodically. It allows MnDOT to get the federal money and then distribute it to us for the projects we have been awarded federal money.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, resolution. Commissioner Vetch.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
Is that Virgil? There's a lot of papers with this one.
Yeah. Virgil, quick question. Why does this have to be done? I mean, why do we have to have, why do we have to approve?
An agreement for that?
Yeah, I mean, what are the other options?
Right, it has to be done, quite frankly, because the other agreement that said it, that covered it expired, so they needed to create a new one. The other options would be that we would have to deal with the feds directly, and it's a lot more cumbersome and onerous on our part to be able to do that. This way, MnDOT accepts all the federal money for all the counties and cities and then distributes, just like they would state aid money.
Okay. So it does make it a little bit cleaner then?
Yes.
More efficient, okay. All righty.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Riley.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, County Board. The Planning and Zoning Office received an application in December from a property owner / applicant to amend the Wright County zoning ordinance to include public schools. We held a meeting on November 16th of last year and December 14th of last year. We notified all the school districts. We had a couple lengthy meetings about the pros and cons of potentially allowing schools in the townships. The minutes are attached. The Planning Commission ended up making a unanimous recommendation to the county board to approve this zoning amendment. To remind you, if it is approved, any school would need a conditional use permit to be allowed. This just allows the possibility of schools being located. They would still have to apply for a conditional use permit and have it reviewed either by the county or the appropriate township. The final amendment that's in front of you, number 17-3A, differs in a few aspects from the original one, mainly a few grammar changes, and we eliminated adults or children and adults in a section that said it had to be accessory to an existing nonprofit organization that provides camp and education experiences. We decided children and adults pretty much covered everybody, and the Planning Commission eliminated that language. Otherwise, there were not a lot of changes to the amendment that was presented on December. The meeting was closed after the recommendation was made to no further public comment or submissions. So since that time, we haven't been able to take any more comments, and that's true at the meeting today. I don't know if there's any questions or comments for staff. I can handle those.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Batch?
I'm just, I've had a lot of dialogue on this particular item. I'm kind of moving to wanting to set a public hearing or committee of the whole to let the full board hear personally some of the both sides of the aspect of this item, but I'm open to opinions from board members.
Yeah, I'm struggling also,
Right.
Mr. Chair, with this issue, and I'm very supportive of charter schools. I mean, alternate educational, opportunities and that kind of thing. I have a couple of things going on. One, I mean, they're currently, at a campsite which is approved to have up to 300 people at this camp. So that's already been sort of set. But I'm wondering about this whole, how are we opening all this up? I know that there's been discussion about, okay, they can be on a case by case, but not exactly, because if they have to meet all the requirements and that kind of thing, I'm questioning the same thing, and I've had a number of people actually that have pretty strong concerns about this. We have the one public school that they had to bring city services out there to meet the standards, and I know that this is up to 150 kids, so we're not talking about a large school district, but it is a public school. I don't know if that's a public hearing per se. I mean, it's been vetted and, by the Planning Commission that they had public meetings, but are we talking about a larger aspect here, I guess?
My concern, Mr. Chair, is the precedents that we set. We, as a board, have really towed a line that we want to keep our rural areas rural, And, okay, if we're gonna start carving out exceptions, then does it open us up to other entities that maybe are not schools to come back and say, well, you guys only want to pick and choose and draw things up to be exactly what you want, you know, and could that lead us into future litigation? Because this one here, I mean, the way it's written to me, it's like, okay, we're trying to make this so it only works for this particular school. And now is that as us as a government entity, the right thing to do? If we're designing ordinances to handpick for one particular entity, that's, you know.
Yeah, originally, this school, the Jane Goodall, they had property that was donated to them, in my understanding, the DNR property, so then that's state land. And we wouldn't have to be dealing with that with the county, but yeah, I don't know. I'm really torn about this.
Would one of our attorneys like to add anything to the discussions at all?
Answer any questions you have, but not really. I mean, the comment on the process, if you want more public testimony and comment and have a more thorough discussion, scheduling a public hearing is the only way to go about that. On one hand, we have a lengthy testimony.
Right.
That's why we did notify all the school districts. Right. We got the township's input. As far as land use goes, it was an application by an applicant. This wasn't the county's or staff idea necessarily to come up with this or craft it in this exact manner. It came about by the application and the process. To have a land use limited by capacity and location is not necessarily unusual or arbitrary, but it is crafted in a conservative way to allow this particular applicant to at least move forward and I guess see what the future would bring. Somebody can always amend the ordinance that would be put in place.
Sean, was the township for or against, or no comment?
Well, specifically, Corona Township was for the request with some concerns about just details.
Okay.
And they do their own planning and zoning in Corona, so.
They would review the CUP, but you are correct.
Right.
It's not necessarily just a case by case. This applies to the county. It's the Wright County zoning ordinance.
Right.
So if you meet these initial criteria and feel like you have a viable option to move forward with, you could apply for a CUP.
The reason, Mr. Chair, the reason I was kind of advocating for was a public hearing was after having had hearing a lot of the testimony and reading a lot of the information, it made me have a little bit more concerns, and that's the only reason. I don't know how much Commissioner Potter and Commissioner Dahlheiden have been in touch with this particular ordinance amendment, that the reason, or ordinance change, I think would be classified as. That's the reason I'm curious if you're interested or not. If you feel comfortable moving forward with it, I'm okay with that, but there's a lot of information.
And Mr. Chair, County Board, you could see in the minutes, there's some issues reflected in here that we can't necessarily deal with. The judgment of a quality of a school. That's going to be the same whether it's in a city or a township, or potentially the same.
And I mean, that issue, the concerns that, have been expressed about education, safety, and that kind of thing, that would come down to a decision by the Minnesota Board of Education, or who makes that call?
State license.
Okay.
Right. And there was concerns about the quote as schools in the middle of a farm field.
Yep.
So we tried to address that type of concern, the capacity and the location, and having it accessory to a facility that had already had the services.
I mean, there's, I like the idea of having it an existing spot that's already you know, approved for 300 people to be at as far as the services and that kind of thing, but I don't know. Then it's like the next one comes up and I'm just a little concerned about it, I guess.
I just have multifold concerns, mostly just, you know, the townships are not set up to have large densities of populations in areas, so they don't have the law enforcement facilities nearby, they don't have the fire facilities, they don't have the traffic infrastructure for it. You know, that's one concern. And the other concern that I have is this just the tailoring of this, and what does that say to everybody out there is that if you know, if we will craft things to make it seem overly unique to this one situation, and that's just not, I don't believe in that, so.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg, this was a public hearing, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, yes.
All people that want to respond did get a chance to respond to this, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, yes, we published it, we noticed it. We also sent notice over to all the school districts, I believe, in the county, so yes.
Okay, so based on what I'm reading here, is they followed all the procedures the correct way for public hearing?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, yes, we followed all of our standard procedures for a zoning ordinance amendment, yes.
Okay, and so Mr. Chair, with that being registered, I'll make a motion to approve this recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Specifically, Commissioner Potter, I'm assuming you're moving ordinance amendment 17-3A.
Correct.
Motion by Commissioner Potter. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Next step. Somebody want to make a motion to do something different?
Mr. Chair, if the board is inclined to do a public hearing, we require 10 days posted notice. The official newspaper goes, earliest we could publish would be this Friday, so the earliest we could have a public hearing would be the 22nd of January.
That would be during a regular board meeting?
You could do a regular board meeting, you could do committee of the whole, whatever you want to do. Earliest we could do would be Monday, the 22nd. If the board is inclined to go that direction.
Well, I know we do have a Health and Human Services meeting on the 22nd.
Mr. Chair, I'm guessing since Commissioner Potter here made a motion, has no interest in having a committee of the whole or wanting to hear any testimony. I've been close to this issue as it sounds like Commissioner Hewsom is. My question is, do you want to hold off until Commissioner Burrell is here, since he is one of the members on that planning commission to maybe move something forward with this? Otherwise, I hate to set a public hearing in a committee of the whole if Commissioner Dahlheiden, if you have no interest in having all these testimonies all over again, if you feel like the record as is enough for you to feel comfortable, you're just looking for the fifth body member here to move forward, we can hold this off.
Do you want to table it till the 22nd?
Oh, be the 23rd.
Or 23rd.
Or 23rd, I'm sorry.
I think if you, that's the reason, because I don't want to make you guys.
No, Mr. Chair, the reason I made the comments that I did is that there was a public hearing. They went for ordinance amendment. They went through the proper procedures. All the people got to talk to them, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve it. And I trust my Planning Commission that they did everything within the scope of the law to do this. Whether other people agree or not, but I tend to stick with the Planning Commission when our attorney is telling us that they followed all the rules and procedures the correct way.
Yeah. And, and generally speaking, Mr. Chair, I do too. I support the decisions by the Planning Commission, but this seems to be just a little more to this, but that's my concern.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, I guess I'm going to leave it kind of in your field. Would you rather table this, or would you rather set a committee of the whole?
I already made my motion.
You're not gonna make it, because I mean, I'll make a motion then to table it and move it forward to, tell Commissioner Burrell can be present. We can talk about it again at that time. We can always.
So, Commissioner Vetch, are you?
I'm making a motion.
saying that we
Keep
just
this
set
item.
it to our regular board meeting on the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay. I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome to hold this over till the 23rd of January. Is there any further discussions? The only suggestion I have is on the last page of your minutes. You need to move a D, because right now it says carried unanimously.
Yeah.
Yes, yep, oh, on this, yep, yes. Those haven't been approved yet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trying
Terry
to
does a
figure
lot
out
of
who that
typing.
person was.
Terry does a lot of typing.
Carry-
Yeah. All right, any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. Items for consideration. Coordinator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, our branding committee has been working on creating a style guide and doing some branding planning for the county. We believe we have a document we would like to present to the board for adoption and to discuss the rollout of these documents. So we'd like to schedule a committee of the whole to do so. Knowing we do have a few other ones on the agenda later, we could add it to that. The committee discussed and was looking at scheduling something the week of the 22nd of January. A couple suggested dates. We had looked at potentially late morning on the 22nd prior to a Health and Human Services Board meeting. Just for
Mr. Chair, I'll be
discussion.
unavailable at that time.
I'm sorry?
I will be unavailable on that morning.
Unavailable on the 22nd. Will you be here for the Health and Human Services in the afternoon?
I will not be. That's my first meeting with the Transportation Alliance on the Board of Directors.
Okay. Do we have anything else scheduled for the 23rd after the board meeting?
23rd after the board meeting, we currently have the legislative priorities meeting scheduled. However, that is an item later on the agenda here to discuss potentially rescheduling that into February to better fit the schedules of our legislators. So we could entertain adding it to the 23rd, either as part of that currently scheduled meeting or put it as an afternoon item.
Mr. Chair, I think it's likely that we're going to be moving that legislative meeting probably, so we can just replace it tentatively until we have that next item to discuss here with this branding.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd move to set it on the 23rd at 10:30.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Committee of the Whole regarding space study. Coordinator Kelly.
We had our committee meeting in December to discuss this and requested some additional action items from the architecture firm. They are now ready to bring something back the latter part of January. Because of their busy schedule, we looked out and the 25th would be a good day for them, which is a Thursday. That would work for the board.
What time of day?
Open. I'd like to give them a little bit of drive time, so maybe a 9 o'clock or later that day.
On the 25th?
On the 25th of January, correct.
Want to go 9:30?
Is everybody else available those days?
I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good.
And would 10 be better? Do you let
10
them get
o'clock's
out
fine
here?
too.
I think anything after 9 will be fine, so
Okay.
what works
They don't have
best
to
for
deal
your
with rush
schedule?
hour
All right.
traffic at all.
January 25th at 10 o'clock. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter.
You said 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
Okay.
For Committee of the Whole, January 25th at 10 a.m. regarding the space study. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimous. Item D, schedule Committee of the Whole regarding an Oswego property. I would
C.
It's
No,
skip
legislative
C,
priorities.
Mr.
Oh, I'm
Chair.
sorry. C. Ahead of myself.
Mr. Chair, as I alluded to earlier, I've had some discussion with the legislators trying to come up with an alternate date for the meeting to better fit their schedule. The date and time we discussed was the 7th of February at 9:30 in the morning. I've had pretty good response from the legislators. More of them are able to make this date and time. I still don't have confirmation from all of them, but more available at this date and time, so.
Mr. Chair, the 7th, I had Byron and Frederickson Legislative Outlook in St. Paul, 9 to 10:30 that day.
I know we signed up to get on to that. I know. and I'm struggling with this one because we've thrown so many dates to try and make this work, so I'm trying to decide which we...
We can get them here in the afternoon, it would work.
I could certainly follow up and look at some alternate date and times. Again, I will kind of add to the comment, if we keep moving the dates, it's hard to nail them down, so.
Right.
And what was it that you're going to?
The Legislative Outlook at the one in St. Paul that I've gone through the last few years. That's where they have the panel of legislators there. Most of them are in chair positions.
I'm surprised that the 7th worked for some of them, if that's going on
Well,
that
they're
day.
not the same ones
It's
on the panel.
it's seniority ones on the panel. I mean, a lot of the...
I know it's important to have Representative Erdahl here, so if the rest of you want to meet that day, it's just fine. I talk to Mr. Erdahl on a regular basis. He is the important one for us to nail down because he is the chair of the bonding committee. This is a bonding year. So his schedule is going to dictate a lot of things, what we can do here.
Well, I like the idea that we have more already that have agreed to that
Right.
date, and that's the whole idea.
I look at it too. As much as I want to go down to St. Paul, if we can get 4 of them here, then
Right.
then I mean that's
This is what
Yeah.
affects this county.
and that's where I mean that trumps it. I mean, had I known, I wouldn't have signed up to go down to St. Paul that day either. But this is.
Mr. Chair, I propose, Coordinator Kelly, if you could check to see if a 1 o'clock time frame would work for them. If not, I think that since we've already gotten commitment or availability from a few for the 7th at 9:30, I think that would be maybe a second time. I mean, we could try for 1, and if they can't make it, stick with the 9:30. I'd make that in a motion.
I'll second that. I think we can take one last throw at the wall with the dart here to see if we can make one.
No, that's just it.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Hewson to see if an alternate time of 1 o'clock or thereabouts would work for our legislators. Second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions?
Then just for clarification, the meeting that was already scheduled for the 23rd, this item will be removed from it. And
Correct.
we'll just have the
Yep.
item we had action on earlier in the meeting.
Yep. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item D, schedule committee of the whole regarding Oswego property. Why don't we just schedule that on the 23rd regarding the branding style? I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of time.
January 23rd.
And I would like the highway department here at the highway department here for that meeting also.
January 23rd at 10:30 or whatever, following the...
11 o'clock probably, I don't know. Lee, how long do you think the branding is going to take?
Probably not more than half an hour. I would just recommend we add this to the 10:30
Yeah.
item as an A and a B.
Okay. Yeah, and then please invite the highway department.
Okay.
item F. Wait a vote, sorry.
I'll make a motion setting the Otsego Property Committee of the Whole to be added on to the January 23rd meeting at 10:30.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions? And I will provide everybody with some information prior to the meeting so you have some background on what's going on with this property. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item F. We'll skip over item E at this point. Item F, Ditch Committee.
Commissioners, Matt brought to my attention an open issue that we have on one of our ditches, and it's involving some timing and our ability to respond, and if we do respond, what are the complications to it?
So again, which ditch was this?
33.
This would be on 33. So Commissioner Betts, that is in your district, so we would like to have that meeting with you, and we think it'd be appropriate to have another commissioner there as well.
I'll be happy to be the second commissioner unless if it doesn't work for Commissioner Burrell, if you'd prefer to be it, but we'll set the date.
Yeah, Commissioner Dahlhead, I'd like you to attend with me, just because a lot of it is right up there with 39 between Monticello, Otsego.
Oh, it's up in that, okay.
Yep. So,
Okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, that would affect
Yep.
Otsego and stuff then too, okay.
So I know that's a committee day. I'd like to recommend 8:30 in the auditors conference room.
January 24th at 8:30, auditor's office. I'll make a motion to set a ditch committee meeting on January 24th at 8:30 in the auditor's office.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. For Ditch 33 committee meeting on January 24th at 8:30 a.m. Is there any further discussions?
With Commissioners Dahlhead and Vetch.
Just a question, I guess, to Bob, for our scheduling for the rest of the committees, are you anticipating a long meeting? Half hour? Any idea?
An hour. Matt said he can speak fast well.
It'd probably be an hour.
So you'll talk slow.
So, building or Ways and Means,
Just make them a little later.
It'll be at 9:30.
well, those could be earlier,
Oh, yeah, that could be earlier
Yeah.
because building committee could be earlier that day.
because I'm on
Personnel.
personnel and tech is always later. Pardon?
Janice will probably take the minutes, so. As long as Commissioner Vetch and Dahlhead are not another. Probably do 2 committees.
Yeah, it could be. That would work.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
Fine.
And I'm assuming you'll be there?
Keep you in line.
Good luck.
Is that before or after your vacation?
All right. I have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item E, closed session. Can we adjourn this board meeting, or do we have to go to closed session and then come back out and adjourn the meeting?
Better to, well, are you planning on doing any of the
Advisory.
stuff?
Take those ahead of time?
Sure, I have.
Well, I can, well, that's why I'm curious to find out what we have to do.
We have had occasions where we've adjourned the meeting and then held the closed session. It's kind of a separate meeting, as long as it's noticed. I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, would it be cleaner to have us do our advisory committee updates and then adjourn this and go into that closed session?
That's what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
Cleanest session, okay. Thank you.
And Mr.
All right.
Chair, for clarification, I'm not anticipating any action coming out of our closed session that will need to be made in a public forum.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then let's go with the advisory committee, advisory board updates. And and then we will adjourn and go into closed session. Commissioner Vetch, do you have anything?
I have nothing. Since last week, it was a slow week for me.
Well, the weather was warmer where you were
The
at.
weather was warmer as that. I got to see a beautiful wedding, family member.
Cool. Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, I attended our first MRC, which is Minnesota Rural Counties Board, meeting up in Alexandria. And interesting, they had a guest speaker, Elise Larson from the Minnesota Center of Environmental Advocacy out of St. Paul. Drainage assessment on permanent conservation land. A lot of discussion back and forth, but more questions than answers. So that was that particular item was didn't support, wasn't against it, just didn't need more information before that was going on, because question, especially up in the northern counties, when there's public lands and they want drainage improvements, they've been exempted from having to pay. And there's been some question, you know, you're making us fix it, but you're not paying for it. Kind of, it really doesn't affect us all that much, but it's part of, it was a big ticket item here. The other thing is that they had their legislative priorities, support AMC mental health bonding proposal. Second was to bring adequate, reliable broadband access to all corners of the state. That's pretty much with AMC. Support county relief and potential tax court success by utilities challenging DOR rates, which I think Clearwater County is one that's in that with Enbridge right now. And if they lose, it could potentially bankrupt that whole county. So they've been, that's a big ticket item right now. And that falls into a very big challenge throughout the state here with different pipelines and what have you. And the fourth one was to support long-term transportation funding package with strong focus on local roads that are adequately funded primarily through constitutionally protected revenues. And we had a little discussion on that, and there's going to be more discussion on that, but it's going to, these four priorities mirror what AMC, because that's part of the, for MRC to get in with that is a, be part of the group. They had to mirror what's going on there, not do things contrary like they used to do.
So everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm. We're all
a united front.
Yeah, the train's going in the same direction. All the horses are pulling it that way. They had a few other things that they support: relief for dark store appraisals, beaver control cost share, increased mortgage deed tax, rain game pilot project. But those are not going to happen in a bonding year, so they're just going to have to do some work on setting that up, because I know rural Minnesota is worried about losing population, losing the talent out there, and they're just trying to figure out what they can do to curb that a little bit. And the other thing is the big ticket, not so much for Wright County, but other ones, establish acquisition mechanisms for buffers, and that's open for wide interpretation what that means. I mean, I think some counties that have a lot of drainage issues are really concerned on how this really is going to affect them and what's going on. But that's what they did. They did yesterday. They ran a little bit long, but that was pretty typical for what they're doing there, and that's what I have to report this week, Mr. Chair.
Quick question. Beaver cost share, is it is it that expensive that they want the state to share in the cost of beaver removal or trapping, or?
Mr. Chair, I didn't want to open up that can of worms and listen to it for an hour, because that's, we were fortunate we had those two old bucks out here.
We had the Swanson brothers that they knew exactly what kind of a beaver it was.
That knew all that. We didn't have the problem other counties got.
They knew if it was a male or a female, or, they could just tell by looking at the work that the beaver did, exactly could identify all that.
Those two guys are amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've lost one of them.
One of them,
yep. All I have, essentially, I went to Buffalo Safe Schools meeting, and they're glad to be back after the school break, and it's, we don't think about it necessarily, but it's really a tough time for a lot of kids because of family situations and things, but they also, middle school did a great thing. The staff collected like $1,000 and took 25 kids approximately shopping to get gifts for their families, and so it was good to hear. And there's a lot of good things going on. And Commissioner Potter and I were at the Township Officers meeting in Cokato Township last Thursday night, and kind of a small crowd, and, but Representative Erdahl came and, you know, gave kind of a nice little talk, and it'll be good when we meet with the legislators, but that's about it.
Okay. I had a Parks Committee last night. This coming Friday and Saturday is the dog sledding out at Ney Park, and that is full with a waiting list.
Okay.
So that's been very successful. They're looking at maybe adding another time out at Bertram Lake. Keep the ones at Ney, but going to out of Bertram, and that would be kind of neat out there. You know, and also to show off that that part of that new park too. Turned down somebody that wanted us to purchase a very small parcel. The new bathroom out at Seagull Park, it was a prefabbed bathroom that they put out there. It's very impressive, and it's the same thing that we're looking at for the new Collinwood Comfort Station with the expansion out there. It is very, very durable, and it looks like wood and rock, but it's all precast concrete. It's very impressive, and I'm sure they'll be providing us with some pictures here as it gets improved and finished completely next spring when all the landscaping is done. Anything else before the board? Hearing none, we will be adjourned at 9:52.